What's up, YouTube? I am Choctopus, and we are back with more Pokemon Duel, and I'm stepping back from playing some matches today to do something a little different. I took a couple days off this week just to kind of refresh and get myself ready for the pounding of content into the channel for 2018. I am 1000% committed to putting out the best content that I can this year. So I wanted to step back and kind of reflect and talk about my favorite 10 figures in Pokemon Duel, and figures that, a lot of people might be using, but some, that you might not be, and I wanted to go through them and talk about why they're good, and, just do something a little more educational, similar to the Cop or Drop series that I did a couple months back, or it's longer than a couple months back, but we did a Cop or Drop series, which was basically me going through evolution lines of figures, or sets of figures, and talking about why you should or shouldn't use them. But today we're going to talk about my top 10 figure picks. Now, don't use this as the top 10 best figures, because it comes down to meta, which is ever changing in games like this, and it comes down to what your preference is and if you have the figures. But let's talk about my first figure, which is Sceptile. So let's find Sceptile. Now, Sceptile is a Pokemon that I completely loathed in this game before I had one, and now I can actually understand why people like Sceptile and why Sceptile is so used. So Sceptile, is an EX that's been around for quite a while now, and honestly, I couldn't imagine not using Sceptile after this long. And, it's still a great figure, because Sceptile 2 MP, if you get it to level 5, you completely eradicate that miss. So you're turning the wheel into nothing but white, gold, and blue. So you don't really have to worry about spinning a miss. You just have to outspin, other figures. But, it has a very small gold attack. Its quick attack is only 30. It's very tiny. It's about, not even a fourth of the wheel, especially once you get into level 6, 7, and you start shifting pieces around. But, paired up with an X speed, I almost said X attack. Paired up with an X speed, you can have a completely gold and blue wheel, which is great. You could take on a lot of, heavy purples, or you can take on, a lot of, other figures that you can beat with Stealth Hit, which is, honestly, Stealth Hit is my favorite thing about Sceptile, because you can use it to get in or out of some, sticky situations. Well, I don't know why you would want to get into a sticky situation, and if you do, please, keep that to yourself. But Stealth Hit is great for setting up surrounds, or escaping, or, kind of making quick advances, towards a goal. And I really don't have more to say about Sceptile, other than it's a good figure. It does upwards of 140 damage plus, depending on what your chain level is. But, paired up with an X speed, like I said, and just the wheel being, 3/4 gold and 1/4 blue, you can't miss. Number 2 is Terrakion, and also, again, remember that these are in no particular order, and feel free to let me know in the comments below what your top 10, figure picks are. But Terrakion is another great one. So its ability is Beat Down, which is all blue attacks of battle opponents of this Pokemon become misses. Now, the reason why I love Terrakion is because, a lot of the Tapu figures that have been recently introduced are very heavy blues. Tapu Koko, which is on this list, and we'll get to it, is a very heavy blue figure. And honestly, it's annoying because, it's a runner. It deals a lot of damage. It could do upwards of 99 damage because it has a damage boost because it's like an electric leader. It can move through other Pokemon, so you need something to shut it down. Now, Terrakion's a 2 MP. It changes everything to everything blue to a miss, so it increases the chances of these heavy blues to miss. So honestly, this is a great counter for Sceptile as well, because it's all blue, it's all white. It does have some miss, but if you really level up your Terrakion, you can minimize it. But let's see, it has 2 protect pieces at 12 each. It does 101 damage for Sword of Justice, which is at 40%, and then you have Stone Edge, which is 20%, dealing 120 damage. So, you know, this is a real heavy hitter, and if you have those Pokemon, you know, that are dealing a lot of damage, that, you know, have blues like Mega Blastoise. Mega Blastoise can be annoying to deal with. It's half blue, it's half white. You put an X-Attack on Terrakion, you know, it's a pretty easy way to take down, you know, figures with heavy blues, and, you know, they're dealing a lot of damage. So I love Terrakion. Terrakion I've been using a lot. I'm not sure what level my Terrakion is, but another figure, if you haven't been using, you might want to try it out because it's a good counter to a lot of the blues. Number 3, and for those of you who've been watching my videos recently, or you follow me on Twitter, or, you know, wherever I basically talk about Pokemon Duel, I rave about having Ludicolo. Ludicolo is a great sleeper figure. If you're not using Ludicolo, I highly recommend picking up Ludicolo or throwing it into a team. So let's talk about why Ludicolo is great. So its ability is Come Here, which, when this Pokemon moves from the bench to the field or appears as an evolution, each player moves one benched Pokemon to the respective entry point. Your opponent goes first. So the fact that your opponent goes first, you can actually counterplay when paired up with a figure that will make an opponent spin when you have your figure come out. That sounds really confusing, and I just confused myself, but for example, you know, you got this pine cone, pineapple looking dude, you put him out on the field, so he's 2 MP. I wouldn't be putting Ludicolo out first, you know, especially if you go first, because you don't want to plug up both your entry points on the first turn. But, you know, if you get your runner out there first, you take Ludicolo, you throw Ludicolo out there, and hypothetically, let's say you're running a Decidueye on your team, like I do. They throw out a Lunala, who is very heavy purple. You know, Lunala ends up on the entry point, you throw out your Decidueye, and then Decidueye is going to make the Lunala spin. You know, this also comes in clutch with a Scoop Up. If you have a Scoop Up, you know, that you can throw into your deck. I was using Ludicolo for a while. I've since changed. I was using Ludicolo with Decidueye and with Spiritomb, because I would use Spiritomb to come out and curse the Pokemon with heavy whites like Sceptile, and, you know, ones that I wanted to remove from the duel that were annoying. And then you have Decidueye, who's another great pair that makes all the purples on the entry points spin. Well, opponents. So, you know, if you have an opponent on your entry point, you know, you could get 2 Pokemon for the price of 1. You kind of throw them both out there, but Ludicolo is great. Now, let's talk about the wheel for a second. You know, it has 2 white attacks, one of them being Grass Knot, which, if a battle opponent deals over 120 damage, and there's a lot of figures that are doing that now, you know, it'll knock out the other Pokemon. And go back and watch some of my recent videos. Ludicolo has come in super clutch when I've had no Pokemon out, and I'm kind of, you know, hanging on the edge. I'm sitting on my entry point, and I'm kind of fending off Pokemon, just trying to buy time so I could get to the opponent's goal. And they're dealing 130 damage. You know, they forget they're using X attacks. And Ludicolo, you know, if it spins Grass Knot, then if they're dealing 130, 140 damage, then you survive. Also, you have Lively Dance, which could be good or bad. So basically, all Pokemon on the field spin, and all white attacks gain weight 1. So it screwed me over a couple times, but I rarely ever hit it. You know, if you're going to level anything up, I would recommend going with Grass Knot, only because there's a lot of heavy-hitting Pokemon out there nowadays. So, Ludicolo, give it a chance. It's a weird-looking Pokemon. Probably one of the weirdest Pokemons I've ever seen, but great. Definitely great in this game. All right, the next one, and this one also probably comes as no surprise, as everyone and their mother is currently using Lunala, but I'll tell you what, they're using Lunala because Lunala is great, and I'll tell you why. Lunala, the battle opponent of this Pokemon, cannot move by effects other than attacks of this Pokemon until the end of the battle. If this Pokemon is not affected by a special condition, have the damage dealt to this Pokemon by the battle opponent. There's a lot to I'll explain it. There's a lot to read here. But basically, what that means is I was up against a what's the Pokemon that has Bulldozer? I forgot, can't think of it. It evolves from Rhydon. I forgot. Rhyperior, sorry. My brain broke for a minute. Basically, I was on my goal. Rhyperior was constantly trying to bulldoze, and I just had Lunala there, and they couldn't push me back, which was awesome. Also, all attacks, white and gold, are halved if Lunala is not affected by any special condition like burn or paralyze. So, anything over 100 or anything up to 120 damage. So I'm currently, I think mine's at 63 because I think I'm sea level 3. But anything up to like 120 damage, if you both spin white or they spin gold of like 110, it halves. So you automatically beat it. It has 2 purple attacks. It has Moongeist Beam, which is move the battle opponent or one opposing Pokemon that's adjacent to the PC. It's only 2 stars, so it's not great. However, if you evolve it through Cosmoem, you gain some extra stars. But then you have Psychic, which is battle opponent becomes burned. There's really not much to say about this. You can move through other Pokemon. I feel like this one's pretty self-explanatory, but give Lunala a chance. I was lucky enough to pull one recently. If you have the material, it's super meta right now. I would, definitely look into picking up Lunala if you don't have one. All right, next up, we have one of the legendary birds, one of the OG legendaries, and I might catch some heat for this one, but Zapdos. Zapdos is still a good figure. I personally still like using Zapdos, and I do from time to time. So Zapdos' ability is Soar. This Pokemon can fly over Pokemon that don't have Soar using an MP move. So you can't fly over other Pokemon that have Soar. You can't fly over Articuno or Moltres or whoever. But that comes in handy, because it really saves you on hurdle jumps. And let's talk about the wheel. It's 2 MP. Steel Wing does 50 damage, which I rarely ever spin. I could probably count on one hand the number of times I've spun Steel Wind. Then you have Thunder Crash, which is at 100, but, chain leveled, you could go upwards of 110. And, paired up with a Pokemon like Tapu Koko, Zapdos becomes a real heavy hitter. And it's a very large piece. It's a 32% gold. And, leveling it up, that's where you're going to put all of your chips. But Roost, which is kind of a downside, puts Pokemon on weight 3. But, however, it's a blue, so you can't really get knocked out. Thunder Charge is great if you have Pokemon sitting next to each other. You can, if you hit Thunder Charge, you can paralyze a chain of Pokemon that are, if they have Pokemon lined up on their goal. Not too much to say about Zapdos. Zapdos has been around probably since the beginning of Pokemon Duel, but it's a figure worth using, especially if you don't have a lot, and you still have some of the older figures. If you're a free-to-play player. But Zapdos is great, especially paired up with like Tapu Koko or someone that's going to boost Zapdos. All right, next up we have Decidueye, my favorite final evolution from the Sun and Moon generation, from the 7th gen. We have Decidueye, who arguably is good, from Rowlet all the way through, but I want to talk about Decidueye specifically because when this Pokemon moves from the bench to the field or appears as an evolution, this seems to be a pretty common thing that Duel has been adding into figures lately. So once it comes off the bench or evolves, spin for each opposing Pokemon on an entry point. If a purple attack is spun, knock out that opposing Pokemon, and you can MP move through other figures. So I've been using this a lot, especially with Ludicolo. Watch some of my most recent duels. Basically, Decidueye comes off the bench. Any opposing Pokemon that are on any entry points spin, and if they spin a purple, they get knocked out. It's real simple, and I feel like in a meta where purple is very heavy, purples and golds, you can really clear out a bunch of Pokemon. So what I'll do is I'll throw Ludicolo out there. I'll kind of look at their bench, see who they have left, or, see how purple heavy their team is. I will send Ludicolo out, and then they'll put a Pokemon out on their entry point that is purple, and then I'll throw out Decidueye and kind of get a free knockout. It happens more times than you think it would, and it's great. So talking about its wheel, you have Phantom Arrow, which is 32. That's a gold attack. An opposing Pokemon adjacent to the Pokemon spins. If it spins purple, it's knocked out. Good for Pokemon that are bunched up, dealing 70 damage. It has Spirit Shackle. Battle opponent gains weight 5. That's awesome. And then you have Grass Knot, which is if the battle opponent spins over 120, just like Ludicolo, they get knocked out. So going up against good heavy hitters, paired up with an X attack, or if you're going up against a heavy purple, you know, you can use an X speed and make, you know, about 75% of that wheel a gold attack. And then you have, you know, Miss, which is only 8 pieces, which can be thoroughly minimized. It's a good figure. It's probably my favorite final evolution out of the 3 Sun and Moon starters. And, you know, there's a lot of synergy with Ludicolo and just other Pokemon that involve throwing new figures out on the field or evolving. All right, the next one I actually do not have, but I'm saving my material because as soon as I get 4,000, which is going to be real soon, we're picking up Tapu Koko. And let me tell you why Tapu Koko is great. Tapu Koko could do everything. Tapu Koko gives plus 30 to electric-type Pokemon that are out on the field. It can move through Pokemon. It's a runner. Tapu Koko is super annoying, but it's also a great figure. It's very meta right now. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I'm just getting so excited and upset at the same time. But let's talk about Tapu Koko, why it's good, and, you know, why you should be using Tapu Koko if you have one. I said Tapu Koko a lot in the last 5 seconds. So you have Wild Charge. Pokemon gains weight, dealing 69 damage. You have Dodge, you have Melee Wish, which are 2 blues. Melee Wish, Melee gives you the ability to select one of your Pokemon. If you do, Pokemon is excluded from the duel. And then until the end of the turn, Pokemon gets MP3 and it can fly over. It makes a Pokemon just as annoying as Tapu Koko. It has Quick Attack, which is 30. That's its gold attack. And, you can't stack Tapu Koko, so you can only have one. You can't have multiple of them, you know, adding 30, because that would just be broken as hell if you had 2, and then they were just adding 60 to Electric-type Pokemon that are out there. That'd be wild. Also, Pokemon within 2 move points of it cannot fall asleep. That's really all I have to say. I'm very upset that I don't have one, but soon. And when I do, I'm going to cheese just as much as I've been cheesed lately. Tapu Koko, use it. All right, we're stepping back to the rares. Next up, we have Combusken, the fire chicken that looks like a male appendage. I don't know who designed this one, but I don't know what they had. Well, I mean, I know what they had on their minds, because clearly look at Combusken. Combusken, the fire chicken that evolves into Blaziken, and the reason why I didn't go with Blaziken off the bat is because Combusken is a really good figure. And let me tell you why. Basically, Combusken is a rare with 3-star purple. Cyclone Kick, which you can really expand when you get to level 5. And then you have, what that does is it knocks a battle opponent to the PC. An easy way to level up into a Blaziken, giving Blaziken a 4-star purple, which is pretty OP. Then, you know, I didn't want to talk about Mega Blaziken from there. It's wild. And then you have Weak Spot Kick, battle opponent gains weight 4. There's not really too much to Combusken, but Combusken is a pretty overpowered figure for just a rare. If you have both Blaziken and Combusken, consider running Combusken into Blaziken as opposed to just running Blaziken on its own. It's a good figure, and you should definitely be using it if you have both. Alright, the next 2, we are stepping back into the 7th generation with Pokemon Sun and Moon. Next, we have Popplio, and, you know, Popplio's probably gotten a lot of crap from me since Sun and Moon has come out. Not to insult anybody, I know there's some Popplio lovers out there, but Popplio is a good figure, so let me tell you why. And it's mainly for its ability Balloon Trick, which is all of the purple attacks of this Pokemon become a miss. You know, it's a pretty easy way to level up. You know, you got Lunala, whose wheel is basically half purple. You know, you throw out Popplio, he ends up knocking it out with a water gun that deals 40 damage. And, you know, if you get it to level 5, you can really, you know, minimize the miss on the wheel, but not too much to Popplio. You know, Brionne is also a good figure, a lot of gold, a lot of purple on that figure, but, you know, for a runner, for an uncommon, you know, figure, it really messes with a lot of the stuff that's happening in the meta right now by turning all of the purples to a miss. Last but not least, we have Litten, kind of similar to Popplio, except instead of purple attacks, the gold attacks turn into misses. It only deals 40 damage, you know, but it's Ember. And then you have Scary Face, which knocks back an opponent and gains 1. But, you know, going into Torracat and Incineroar, you know, you could have a pretty strong figure if you're able to make it all the way through the evolution. But that's all we got for this video. Those are my top 10 picks. Let me know what your top 10 picks are in the comments below. And I will reiterate that this is no means of a list, that is, all these figures that are kind of meta right now might be, non-meta in a couple of weeks. We don't know. We have Mega Mewtwo coming out. So we don't know what's going to happen, and apparently there's a lot of other surprises, but, I hope this video helped some newcomers, and to those of you who might be looking for, new figures or just, are out of ideas, let me know in the comments below what you thought. I think I'm going to do the same thing with plates. I'm going to do a plate video, so if you want to see that, drop down in the comments. Be sure to smash that like button if you're new here, and subscribe, because getting real close to 5,000 subs. And at 5,000 subs, we're going to sing a song. So that's all we got. You can find me on social media. I've been streaming lately. Links in the description below for my Twitch, Twitter, and all that stuff. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Have an awesome day. Peace.